Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to Sweetwater's iOS update. This time out, a versatile granular synthesis app for sound design and for creating soundscapes. Let's get started. Today we're checking out Grain Science, a granular synthesis app. Now, granular synthesis can be kind of a complex thing to work with. What you're doing is taking a sample, splitting it up into many different grains, and then either playing those back in order, shifting the order of those grains, processing them in different ways. So there's a lot of parameters that can be involved. But Grain Science really makes it easy to get in there and create sounds using actually two different layered granular synthesis samples. We have a number of different presets that come with the app, and those are arrayed here in this first little window. And then we can scroll through the different parameters by simply swiping left and right. We have a built-in keyboard so we can play the synthesizer right from the front of the iPad. And we can change the size of the keys as well as the number of keys that are displayed here in the settings menu. The settings menu also gives us control over other parameters as well, such as how you're setting up the buttons for when you're recording, automatic gain controls, the background audio setting, all those different types of things that you set once and then usually not have to change again. One of the great things about the way Grain Science is set up is that you can experiment with different parameters inside a preset and not lose the original preset settings. You can also change a preset, move to a different preset, and you don't lose the changes that you've made to your first preset. So for example, we can select a preset here. We can scroll over, change some different parameters. Now when we go back, we'll see a dot here indicating that it's been changed. If we move to a different preset, our changes still stay here in our original preset. We can choose at this point to either keep those changes and create a new instrument, so our original preset is saved, we create a new preset, or we can discard those and go back to our original preset. Let's take a look at how easy it is to create your own sounds using Grain Science. Our first window here shows us the voices. So we can set up whether we're monophonic or polyphonic. Supercharger layers additional voices on top. We have gain control, and that can be set to link to velocity. And we can also set up glide between the different voices when we're playing. Where things get interesting is when we load in different pieces of audio that we use to create our grains that make up the granular synthesis. We do that by simply clicking on the waveform in the 2 units. So we have grain unit 1 here, and we can click on the wheel here. That shows us our different waveforms that are available. The current wave is a sawtooth. We can choose any number of different waveforms here. And we can also choose to import new sounds. So we can import sounds directly off the iPad, we can use Dropbox, and we can also use Audio Paste to bring in different sounds. In addition, we can record our own sounds by simply clicking the record button. Now once we have a sound here, either whether we've selected an internal sound, whether we've imported something, or we've recorded something, we also have control over the speed of playback for the different grains. We can set the octave those grains will play back in. We can tune those, and we can also set the size of the grains. All these parameters make a big difference in the way that our overall sound comes out in the end. So if we go in here, let's select a waveform. We'll choose atmospheric basis here as our sound. We can set the octave for that, tune it up. We can fine tune it. Set the size of our grains, very short, very long. Set the speed of playback. Then we can set the mode for how the grains are actually played back. So if we click the mode switch, static plays back one grain and just stays on it. Linear plays through the grains in order. Bounce plays to the end of the sound and then plays backward. Chaos randomly plays back grains. And single shot just plays the grain back once. So we have a lot of different capability there for shaping the way those grains are being played back, the length of the grains, the speed, the octave, all of those things will impact our final sound. Now we have 2 different grain units available to us, grain unit 1 and grain unit 2, and they can have separate waveforms loaded up. We also have an envelope available for our overall sound, attack, decay, sustain, release, and then a blend between the 2 grain units. We also have an Arpeggiator on board that can play back different sequences, or it can arpeggiate within chords. We turn that on here. We can choose either chords or step sequencing. When we're in step sequencing, let's make that larger so we can see it. We have control over how large each step is. We can also mute steps by double-clicking. Turn them back on. We can set the number of steps by dragging down here. And now we can move those as well. And now when we play back, we can set the tempo using BPM, or we can also lock that. We can set our note length or our window. We also have 4 different effects processors inside of Grain Science. So we can scroll over to those. We have a variety of different effects we can load. So we can flip this over. Bit Crusher, Shapeinator, Hard Clip, Overdrive, Pulse Width, Warm Fuzzy, filters. We also have actual effects here. So we could go down, for example, to a chorus effect and add that on. And then we have control over different parameters. Now, Grain Science provides us with an interesting option for controlling parameters. We can click on a control, and now we can scroll the control as you'd expect to make different setting changes. So here, for example, we're controlling the frequency of the chorus. We can click on this little atom icon, and it opens up other options for us. So in this case, the parameter is being set by the knob. You can see it moving there inside the screen. We can also set that up to be locked to different tempos, so we can sync it up to quarter note, for example. We can also modulate parameters. And we can use a combination of the setting as well as modulation to create really interesting effects. Virtually all of the parameters can be modulated in this way, and you can see we have a lot of control for shaping those parameters. This gives you a lot of interactive capability for making sounds that move, have a lot of motion, have a lot of life to them. But we have options for real-time control over parameters as well. So if we scroll here, we can see all the different parameters. If we click on one, it'll open up a menu that allows us to provide sources that will modulate those controls in real time. So we have pad controls, for example. Down here, we have wheels. To access those sources, we scroll to the next screen, which gives us our performance panels. So we have 4 different performance panels. We can look at an XY pad, or we can look at 4 wheels per panel. So we could, for example, have 16 different wheels, each of those assigned to a different parameter, and we can access those in real time. On an XY pad, in the same way, we can modulate different parameters. So this gives us a tremendous amount of control over what's happening to our sound. We can really shape what's happening to it, both in real time and using modulators. Now, when you've created a sound, or you've created a soundscape that you want to use in a film, or you want to use it as an intro to a song, or as an instrument inside your song, you can actually capture that audio by clicking the record button, playing your part back. The audio will be recorded straight into your iPad, then you can export that to load into another app or to send to your computer. If you're looking for a sound design program that lets you really get in there and shape your sounds, yet isn't difficult to operate, it's very intuitive to move among the screens, to control the parameters, to take charge of them in real time, or to modulate them, Grain Science is a great one to check out. It gives you that low-level control over the grains, yet it also lets you take macro control over shaping your entire sound. I hope you've enjoyed this installment of Sweetwater's iOS Update. Be sure to tune in next time. We'll have more apps, more hardware accessories, and more tips on making music with your iOS devices. I'm Mitch Gallagher.